Hi guys, welcome back to AFTV. Welcome back to News Daily. I'm back, and I'm back with Turkish. How are you?
Yes, what are you saying, bro? You alright?
Yeah, good. I saw the international break as an opportunity to forget about football and Arsenal for a week. So I've had a few people asking where I've been, but I'm back.
Yeah.
Just a little staycation. How are you?
I'm all good, you know.
Yeah.
Can't complain. Nice little international break.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you been watching much of it?
Oh, listen, it didn't start off well for Turkey and Ireland, but
Did it not? I'm actually not joking here. I've barely.
I
kept
didn't
up with a
assume
lot
you
of
would.
it.
I didn't assume you would. It is what it is.
So I know Italy. Obviously, I've been following Italy. I know they drew with Switzerland, but I didn't watch the game. I thought I mean it when I say I took a week from football just to re-energize a bit. I felt like I needed it. Arsenal definitely need that.
Yeah, we needed it for Arsenal for sure.
Yeah. How have they been doing though?
Well,
how have all your sides been
both
doing?
Turkey and Ireland conceded in the 97th minute last week.
No, wait, you did tell me.
A certain Ronaldo breaking records. It hasn't really been a good year overall. Arsenal 8th, Turkey last in Euros, started the season how we have, and then we have Mr. Edu coming out with nonsense to top it all off. But
the topic of today's discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we're going to go into all that as we get our table moved forward. I'll shuffle with it. We're going to chat about Edu's interview. Interviews, because we didn't really clock that it was kind of two interviews really, although it was kind of one overall message to the fans. So we're going to talk about all that. I wanted to, I'm sure you guys have covered it sort of, extensively since deadline day, but the window's over. I know you guys have talked about it. Tomiyasu came in on deadline day with kind of a week's reflection on that, the window, which is something that Edu discussed. Have you given it a rating? Have you given it a rating on your channel or here on AFTV?
4 out of 10.
Oh, you gave it a 4. Okay, fair enough.
But I have also added to that rating that you don't really know what a transfer window is going to be rated for until at least 2 years after that window, I'd say.
Yeah,
because I used the 2019 window as a perfect example. I thought that window was maybe a 7.
Mm-hmm.
Tierney, Martinelli, Guendouzi, Pepe, Saliba. I thought, all right. We've done our thing, and then 2 years later, it's only Tierney and Martinelli that you can say are successes from that transfer window.
Do you know what? That's a really good way of putting it. And actually, it's kind of stupid rating windows. It's more, we should more just be evaluating whether we got what we thought we needed. And I think that the general answer to that question is probably no.
Yeah.
But Edu has come out and explained it. Now, look, do you want to go into it, or shall I? The kind of details of what he went into.
Well, you actually asked me before. James did ask me. He said you pick out some points that you want to talk about. Maybe points that kind of rubbed you up the wrong way.
Yeah, and the reason I asked that was because I chatted with people on Twitter a lot on Saturday. I don't know why I had the week off. I don't know why I decided to. The minute I tweeted, I thought, why did I do that Saturday morning? I don't need this in my life. But I did.
One tweet can set the ball rolling for a few days, I'm telling you.
Yeah, it can, especially when it was a tweet that, I'll be honest, is quite divisive. I came out and said that basically, look, we have a go at the club for not communicating. They did. You can disagree with a lot of what Edu said. However, what he said to me kind of made sense. And I understood where he was coming from. And he explained things in a way that I thought, okay, I get what you're saying here. Now, a lot of people obviously said I was naive, I was buying into the PR, and I thought, we can't use everything as PR. Like, not everything, because we can't ask them to communicate, and the minute they do, just go, oh, it's just PR. There's, at some point, if we want them to get to that stage where they're communicating well with us, it's got to not be PR anymore. So I was kind of open to the idea of, well, maybe this was just a smart move from Edu to discuss the summer's business. Then a second interview came out about 4 or 5 hours later.
Which was news to me.
On Arsenal's website. And it was. And when the second interview came out, I thought...
They're doubling down.
That felt to me... That's when I was like, okay, it is PR, isn't it?
Yeah, it feels, when it feels like it, more often than not, it is it. And you, like I said, you asked me to pick out points that rubbed me up the wrong way. And I went on the website... looked through and I thought to myself, most bits rubbed me up the wrong way. So I actually didn't write down any notes. I thought, whatever parts you give me, I'm sure.
Okay, well let's go into it. So he talked about the strategy. He said it was quite clear, players under the age of 24. He talked about building foundations for the team. I'm going to start with that point because that was the one point I agreed with the most. He basically said that, we spent the most because if you look at other teams where they didn't spend a lot, they've got something to build on.
Yeah.
And he said we didn't have anything to build on, which is actually kind of ruthless to say, about some of the players that are still at the squad. And I'll be honest, I think it's him and Arteta's fault that we're in that position in the first place. But if, Mr. Joe Smith came in and on day one said those words, I would completely agree with him. So take away kind of what Edu and Arteta have done in the build-up to this. The statement alone, I thought was true. We didn't have foundations to build on. This idea that we can just sign 2 great players, 50 million each, and boom, we're good. Actually, I kind of understood his logic between why it needed to be shared across addressing multiple areas in the team. Whether we address them correctly or not is a different question.
Yeah.
But the strategy, I thought made more sense to me. What do you not like about what he said?
I think if you come out and say that the reason we've spent the most money is because we haven't got the foundations, I'd look at the difference in spend between us and the teams that have got the foundations. Now, Man United were only about 5 mil under us, right? In terms of they spent the second most in the transfer window.
Yeah.
I think behind them was it Man City?
Probably City and Chelsea.
Man City with 100 mil, Chelsea 97.5 mil. Obviously, Saul will become a obligation to buy, I believe.
Probably. What a great signing!
So let's just say 100 mil for Chelsea, man. And I think to myself, all right, there's a 50 mil difference between what Arsenal spent and what Man City and Chelsea spent. 5-10 mil difference between Arsenal and United. Those are the teams he's talking about in terms of foundations. Now, it doesn't add up to me because if you're saying we lack the foundations, this is why we spent more, then the spending more should be at least 100 mil more than anyone close to you, because then you can look at what we spent and what others have spent and say we're catching up. We have to catch up because we haven't got the foundations, hence why we spent 100 mil more than them. But if you're talking about other teams have the foundations but they're still spending 140 mil or 100 mil in and around the ballpark we've spent, it's not really going to help us catch up to them. And it's another facade, in my opinion, this project that he's kind of telling us.
So okay, you make a really good point. Almost like we spend more, but not enough, not so much more to the point where you say, this was a real effort to actually overhaul in the way he's perhaps trying to sell it to us.
And like I said, if there was a bigger differential between our spend and the teams with foundations, then that would make a lot more sense, because we do need to build foundations, but you can't promote it as if that's why we've spent the most, because that's what we've done. We haven't necessarily done that. We've added some of the foundation that they hope will become, the future for us. But at the same time, other teams are spending the same amount, adding the quality on top of their foundations.
Yeah. It feels to me, and this is where I'll start being critical about the interview, that Edu and Arteta have realised... Well, actually, no, let's just talk about Edu, because I think Arteta's part of this, but we'll talk about Arteta at some point. It feels to me that Edu has gone back on his methods from a year ago, and the methods, because he came, I think, July 2019.
Yeah.
So he had a month with Sanyehi.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of business done that summer. Saliba was part of that.
Yeah.
Saliba was meant to be part of the project and all that, and he's been sent out on loan twice or 3 times or however many times it is. So, just 3 times. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, it's 3 times.
Yeah, it's 3 times.
So, you could say, well, a load of these players were, signed already with that kind of the future in mind. Martinelli, Saliba. And they don't be... Well, Saliba definitely isn't. Martinelli doesn't seem to be getting the kind of opportunities we thought he'd be getting.
Yeah,
injuries, okay, played a part, absolutely. It feels to me that last year, where we brought in Willian, we brought in Partey, and Runnison was just a kind of, let's just get a backup keeper in. It feels to me like he's going back on his strategy from a year ago, where, by the way, I thought some good players came in, like Partey and Gabriel, but ultimately he's going... They came into the wrong environment, and almost now he's trying to build the right environment for future signings. But the problem is that while I think there might be some weight to what he's trying to do there, you're trying to sell something to Arsenal fans that they've tried to sell to us 5, 6, 7 times since we moved to the Emirates.
Exactly, that's the problem.
And that's where it gets very difficult.
Like I said just before we went live, I said there's a way to say things. And again, when Edu was talking and when I read what he was saying, it comes across condescending. It comes across as he's telling us this is going to take time, so relax. When in essence, I can understand things take time, whether it's Project Youth or Project Big Names coming in. It would still take some time from where we are to get back to where we want to get to. But who's owning all the mistakes? And like you said, he's been here since July 2019. Saliba came and went under his stewardship, let's say. So who's owning up for some of the things that's happened along the way? If you come out and say, I've been here a couple of years, and explain some of the mistakes made and own some of the problems that we've seen, and then say this is now why we've done this approach, maybe I'd believe him a bit more that it's coming from a good place.
So that's really interesting. Right, that's really interesting. It feels more to you, forgive me if I'm saying it wrong, like it's a bit of a con. It's a bit of, this was a plan all along, this is what we're doing, we're in control. And you're basically saying if we had a little bit more clarity, if he came out and went, do you know what, we got some things wrong over the last 2 summers, and I know it's not what Arsenal fans want to hear, but we kind of have to tear it up and go again, then you'd think, it's annoying, but at least there's some evidence and there's a degree of responsibility and accountability.
No one owns up at this club for any of the mistakes.
No, I agree with that.
Not one person over the years, not one person has come out and said, you know what, I've had a part to play in this. This is what happened. This is what went wrong. I think only, actually, what's her name? Is it Lady Nina Bracewell, the one that sold her shares to Kroenke?
Okay, I'm not sure.
I think she's come out since and said that was the wrong decision.
Right,
but
I did hear that, yeah.
That's one person out of a whole heap of many that have made mistakes over the years at Arsenal that have just quietly gone about their business afterwards.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that frustrates me is that I remember being here 2 years ago when Emery was our manager and thinking, yeah, but the foundations are there. I was looking at Torreira, 22, 23. I was looking at Guendouzi, 19. We knew we had Smith Rowe, Saka, Nelson, Willock, Nketiah, Balogun. All these players were still there before Saliba. We had hope for Rob Holding at the time. Hector Bellerin, was still young. Kieran Tierney came in. I remember thinking, but the foundations are there now. Let's add to it.
Yeah.
And it's under Edu and Arteta that a lot of that good work has been undone as well. Maybe it wasn't good work, but the foundations were there. Why?
Yeah, there were similar foundations to what they speak of now.
I think so.
In terms of, it's easy to laugh now at thinking Rob Holding could have been something when we're talking about now, because now we know we was wrong. Wenger was wrong. Whoever thought he could have been something was wrong. But at the time, that was what the club was selling us, and that's what the club thought.
Yeah.
And what happened?
His knee. I think the knee injury really.
Yeah, I'm not just talking about him. I'm talking about Chambers, Bellerin, Maitland-Niles, and so on. All the names you mentioned, these foundations have been seen before at the club.
Yeah.
Wilshere, Ramsey, and those lot was foundations. Fabregas, Nasri, Clichy was foundations. We've seen solid young foundations at this club before.
Yeah.
But they've all either left the club or they've struggled to make it at the club because we've failed to support them adequately, whether through ambition or whether through protection. I'd say with Fabregas, Nasri's and them long cliches, I'd say it's more through ambition. With Wilshere's and Ramsey's and whatnot, I'd say it's more through protection. We've just let the young players go out and hung them to dry in a sense, and the club have done that, knowing the fans won't really put too much pressure on these players. And if you look at it, I don't think Fabregas got much, criticism. Nasri, when he left, obviously, Wilshere was always a fan favourite. Ramsey, he divided opinion, but a lot of people like Ramsey. I think the young players that come through Arsenal, we always tend to support them through thick and thin. It's just that have the club supported them? That's been the biggest issue. So don't sell it to us again and say wait and be patient and it's youth. No, you lot do what you need to do to stop what I've seen happen 2-3 times already happen again.
Yeah, fair enough. I hear that. Rohit with the super chat says, what about his strategy of firing scouts and buying based on his data and then making a U-turn and hiring scouts again now? 3 new scouts in the last month. That was something that worried me when he came in. And he sort of tore up the scouting department, Edu. I was kind of excited when he did it. Not because I thought it was the right thing, but because I thought, well, this is different. Someone's coming and said, we're going to do it my way. And has very quickly gone back a little bit like his transfer strategy last summer, kind of gone back on that quite quickly and said, you know, I might have got that one wrong. There's definitely been a lot of, like, Willian is a good example. We're going to move on to that. He was asked about Willian in the interview, and he was asked, you know, what went wrong, essentially. I can hear
Josh in the background.
Yeah, Josh. When Willian comes up, you hear this big sigh coming from the end. But listen, I've not actually been in since the Willian terminating his contract thing. Fair play to him. I'll say that. Fair play to him. That is a lot of money to walk away from. And I think he did it for the right reasons. So fair enough. But, well, we're hearing that Josh is saying that might be lies. Do you believe it, out of interest?
Believe what exactly?
That he terminated his contract to walk away?
I think an agreement was made. He probably walked away from some of the money. I wouldn't say all. But at the same time, without his friend Louise at the club and the amount of stress that would have followed, you know, being on high wages at Arsenal right now with the fan base the way we are, I think the cut in cost for him made sense. But I don't think he walked away empty-handed.
Listen, yeah, maybe not empty-handed, but...
And again, at a time when we are being criticised heavily and the fan base is heavily critical of the club, the board, in terms of how much they get for outgoings, all of a sudden pops up a story when we're criticising about how many players go out on loan, no option to buy, no value. A story comes out that one of our highest earners has decided to terminate his contract after talking to Edu or Arteta, whoever, and saves the club 20 million. Great piece of business, great piece of PR. For me, that's what it is.
But all I'll say is that's not great PR for Arsenal. I think it makes a mockery of Arsenal, personally. If they, as you said, put that out there as good PR, I think that embarrasses the club.
It does. And I think when you're someone that delves into it, you will see it for that. But outside, looking in from the face of things, which a lot of fans just see on the face of things, it looks, whoa, we saved 20 million there, Edu. Well done.
The only way I think it's... The only person who comes out of it looking good is Willian.
Yes,
in my opinion.
I think it looks good on Edu because.
Do you think?
If on the face
of it,
looks
terrible on Edu.
On the face of it, yeah.
Because if Willian comes out right, and has walked, this is how I've taken it. I've taken it as Willian going. Let's say he didn't walk away from 20 million. Let's say he got 5. But I think we can all agree a large chunk of money that was owed to him via the contract he's not getting. Cool. So he's walking away from that. That feels to me like a Chelsea player who's won European Cups. Well, not the Europe. He's won the Europa League. He's won Premier League titles. He's won FA Cups. Is an iconic player of a good era for Chelsea Football Club. Has come to Arsenal for a year and gone, do you know what? It is so bad. I don't actually want your money. Like, I'll just go. Like, do you know what I mean? You know, it gets so bad.
I get you 100%.
That you're like, listen, I don't even...
But how was it sold in the end? If you look at how that story broke, it was, Willian is a great guy, he's saving the club 20 mil, right? It wasn't, Edu flop leaves after 1 year into 3-year contract, which in reality should be the story.
Yeah. But
the way it came through all the news pages and everything was, Willian saving Arsenal a whole heap of money, and on the face of it, that's a positive thing for Arsenal Football Club. Amidst all of the negativity going on, that is one on the face of it is a positive.
I see what you're saying with that. Yeah.
The only reason I say it, I agree with you, it's not a positive, but the only reason I say it is because it's been flung back at me as a positive when I argue that this transfer window has been quite poor. It's been like, we saved Willian's contract. Well, should we have him in the first place?
All right, so we view that kind of in the same
100%.
way. Super chat from Shreth says, James, as a PR professional, I think that interview was a nightmare. It got customers angry, showed there are no targets to meet, and the management strategy is hoof it to youngsters and pray for success. Okay, let's go into... Thank you for the super chat. Let's go into some of the stuff he said, or rather didn't say, about targets and expectations for the season.
That's the big one.
This drummed up some discussion online. You know, would Arsenal and Arteta and Edu ever openly say what their targets are? Some people are saying, that's, you're trying to operate somewhat quietly. Why would you go telling everyone, well, it's this, and if it's not, then it's been bad, And I get that you don't hear a lot of managers going into a new season saying, unless they're going for the title. But I'm on the side of he should have answered that question infinitely better than he did.
Yeah, a lot more definitively, let's say.
You can still say we are the third biggest club in the country, okay, fine, you're not going to say that. You can say we're one of the biggest clubs in the country, we have an amazing history, and our aspirations will always be to be at the very, very top. We know we're going through some changes, but that aspiration will never change, and this team's got to get back into Europe. You're keeping it vague, but you're answering the question.
Yeah, that
listen, people would have complained about that answer, because what they want to hear is, we're challenging for the title, we're going for top 4, we're going for top 6. They wanted to hear one of those.
Shall I tell you what I wanted to hear?
Okay, go on. Yeah, go on.
If I was the perfect answer for me when Edu is asked what are the targets for this year, all he had to say for me is Europe, full stop. And that to me is top 6. And I think he also talked about in that interview. At one point he said we're at the start of a project, but corrected himself and said, well, in the middle of a project. Well, number one, even at the start of a project, you need targets. Let alone you admitting in the same breath that this is the middle of a project, but there is no targets going into the season. That's madness. Yeah. You don't have to tell us 5th, 4th, 6th, but you can tell us Europe. You can tell us that you said we need European football back. The standards of Arsenal Football Club have, slipped in the past year. We the first time out of Europe in however long. We need that back, bare minimum. But we are in the middle of a project. Don't say we're in the middle of a project and we've got no targets. That's nonsensical. Every project needs targets from the get-go. There needs to be a short-term target, mid-term target, long-term target. And then those targets are also used to hold you to account. You being Arteta, you being Edu, and you being Vinay. Kroenke should use those targets to hold these men into account. But these lot are coming at themselves saying there's no target. Hence why Kroenke not caring is the biggest problem. You as a business owner, if I hear someone that I put in place say there's no targets, or insinuate there's no targets, rather than definitively say we know where we're at and we know we need to, just by saying Europe, I'd be embarrassed and I'd have to call him into my office immediately. But he's confident enough to say it because he's been let to do it all.
Listen, I think you're spot on about that. To turn around and say to people, I don't look at top 4, top 6, top 8, top 10. Now you're lying to us. Yeah. Because you do. Because you're an invincible man. Like, you can't sell us this double winner as well, I think. You were there for, one of the best parts of Arsenal's history. Left the year before we got to the Champions League final. Please don't feed us this. Well, I don't, I'm not looking at that. I'm just... And then you follow, I'm just so excited to see the team play together. Yeah. Why? Because ultimately, Arteta's had very good groups of players to choose from, even in this time, even despite this overall. He's had some good players to choose from, and the football hasn't been great. So, I felt a lot of that quite disingenuous. And listen, anyone tuning in now and the last 5 minutes, whatever, I was sticking up for him and at the beginning saying, I thought he said some things that I agreed with. I thought he was right. I think he was, without admitting it, trying to say, look, we got some things wrong and this is a brand new approach. He doesn't want to say that because everyone's going to go, well, we're nearly 2 years into Arteta, we're nearly 3 years into you. What do you mean? Yeah. But I think he was trying to allude to this being like a fresh start, which he didn't really want to label it as. But I think to not tell us, to tell us that you're not looking at top 8, top 10, top 6, top 4, whatever, just felt like, I've got to say, I felt a bit hopeless with that. I felt a bit like...
He popped out.
Yeah, I was like, oh, God, really?
That was the time to put his neck on the line and set yourself a target that we can hold you to account to next season.
And say with your chest, you say you're happy with the 150 million spent this summer, but I'm not unhappy with it.
You can't give a man 150 million and also tell that man, don't worry about where you finish.
Yeah.
What's that?
No, I completely agree.
150 million to not worry about where he finishes.
And I know that you are on the Kroenkes more than anyone I know, and I love that. But if there's one thing I'll give the Kroenkes, I might be wildly wrong here, but they might not care about the football club, but I really believe they care about money. I really believe they care about the business being run. And so one thing that I think Edu and Arteta need to realise is that they might be feeding what they're feeding to the club.
Yeah.
And we know that they're running things because they literally, Edu said, we pitched our project to the board. They said, wow, that's a lot to do. And we said, yes, but we believe we can do it. So they've said, we're running this. Like we pitched our plans and we got what we wanted.
Yeah.
So Kroenke's up there. So, he's sanctioned this. Fine. Sanctioned. No, he's put his own money. He's sanctioned. At some point, they're going to go, hold on. So, Arteta, you've come in. You finished 8th twice. Cool, you won the FA Cup. Great. But, financially, that doesn't do a world of good for Arsenal. You've not got into Europe. You scraped into Europe the last time by winning the FA Cup. You spent all this money. We don't know that we're improving. Edu, you've torn up the scouting department. You've then brought in a new one. You've put players on big contracts that now you're trying to offload. We heard that Aubameyang was up for sale the rest of the window. Clearly nothing happened. Willian came and went. What a disaster that was. Granit Xhaka tried to flog all summer only to give him a new deal when he's been an absolute disaster of a signing. The Kroenkes at some point, despite not knowing much about football, which I really believe they don't, will look at that and go, this is not a good investment from our perspective. Surely.
You'd hope so. But I don't think so, bro. I just think they don't care. They
I think they care about
the business. Our valuation on the stock market.
Yeah.
And the valuation of the club doesn't just change with a few bad results. The valuation of the club comes from commercial deals, amount of customers, which we know are us fans to them customers, and that doesn't change from a few bad results. It changes from years of neglect. But at the same time, when years and years of neglect are countered with commercial revenues rising, TV deals rising, it cancels out that impact from the lack of care. So they haven't seen that the lack of care over those years, albeit with increased revenue, actually hurts the club long term. And we're seeing that now. So I feel like now we're still worth 2 billion, We might be worth less come 12 months' time. I don't know how it really works and how often that...
1.96.
Yeah, and that's my worry. That might need to start coming down before they even bat an eyelid. I feel like, you said it, they sanctioned the money to be spent. Like I assume you're with me on it, that it seems that the money we've spent comes internally from the club. Yeah, and if it's externally, it'd be through a loan that the club would probably have to pay back. But we might be wrong. It might be Kroenke. We'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I just think that we've seen before, 150 mil we spent in 2019. 144 mil we spent in 2019.
No. This club has spent money.
100 mil. 5 seasons out of the last 7, we've spent over 100 mil in the transfer market.
No, I covered this on the very first build. I think we played Brentford. 600 million's been spent in the last 6 summers. Money has been spent because sanctioned.
And then now you'll have some people saying, "See, get off Kroenke's back." But the money we've spent comes from the who we are, what we are, and the amount of support and fans we have, and the size of the club. At the end of the day, Man United spend a hell of a lot of money. But as you saw in recent times, a chart that come out that shows owner investment, Glazers haven't funded any of that from their own pocket. So as much as United spend heaps and heaps of money, and our money has increased in terms of spend over the last 6, 7, 8 years, it doesn't mean Kroenke's changed or the Glazers have changed. They're still allowing the club to spend within their means while they get better revenue deals that cancel out the lack of care, like I said.
Well, I think it's these things that I wish Edu had addressed in this interview now. We're going to get some super chats in a sec, guys, by the way. Thank you for sending them in. I said I was glad he did an interview because I'm glad the club did communicate with us. But I wish he addressed things like, listen, we know we spent a lot of money this summer. We know we spent a lot of money the last 5 summers. We know that. But we're having to do a little bit of, reinvesting to undo the damage before. It feels like we were being spoken to like, well, this was a big summer, which was unusual for us, but it's not that unusual for us. Yeah. We spent a lot in Emery's second summer. And that's where I felt there was a kind of like a miscommunication. It wasn't miscommunication. They're probably trying to pull the wool over our eyes. But this sense of like not acknowledging, as you said, what had gone wrong, and then saying, this is why this summer we did this. I'm trying to read between the lines and understand that's probably what it was. But it wasn't clear, and it felt a little deceitful at times.
Yeah, 100%. Because look, if Man United and let's say Chelsea bought one more player each and they spent more than us, he couldn't come out with this. This is why we've spent more because we need to build the foundations and catch them. He couldn't. And like we said, 144 million spent in 2019. What is it? 154 million spent this summer, or something like that.
Yeah, 150.
So about a 10 million difference what we spent this summer to last summer. But they're now making it seem like this is a mad thing we're doing.
Was last summer that expensive?
144 million was 2019.
Oh, sorry, you're right. Yeah, 2019.
So now all of a sudden, a transfer window that's only been 10 mil more expenditure than the one we had 2 years ago that led to us finishing 8th twice. They're selling it to us like, we're doing this, we're having this massive outlay because we need foundations. But hold on, is it a massive outlay? It really isn't.
Or at least admit that your work in 2019 was bad. And I was
first and foremost, yeah.
I praised that 2019 window. I thought it was the first and only window I can remember where I felt Arsenal actually addressed every position they needed to going into that summer.
That was the most hope I had at a transfer window ever since we moved into the Emirates.
Yeah.
Pepe, I didn't think we could get. Tierney came in and we knew what he was about.
And no hindsight, I was honestly happy about the Luiz deal. I thought that was going to be quite a shrewd piece of business.
I wasn't, but I could, it is what it is. Koscielny went out same week we brought him in, whatever. I thought Martinelli coming in looked good. Guendouzi came in, looked
Saliba,
good. Torreira,
we were excited about,
Saliba. I thought, all right, a bit of forward thinking there from the club.
Give
them a bit of credit for that.
We
got a defender on our hands next year or 2 years, and 3 years later, here we are.
No, it's true. Let's take these super chats. Super chat from Peter Pan, great name. Says Edu only came out to stop the abuse to his family. Okay, I wasn't sure whether to read this one out, but what I will say about this is, no matter what, don't abuse Edu's family. Don't abuse Edu. Be critical. Say what you want to say. You've got the platforms to do it. And be honest. You don't have to be filtered about it. But please don't abuse Edu or his family. It's just not right.
It doesn't put anyone in a good light. It doesn't put you in a good light. Us fans in a good light. The club in a good light. Football help. In a good light. It doesn't help the situation. At the end of the day, be articulate with your criticism of the club.
That's it. Yeah.
And if you can't be articulate about it, then don't project it on a social platform. That's
and by the way, saying I think Edu deserves the sack for the job he's done, that's not abuse. That's not abuse. We pay a lot of money as fans to watch this club. We follow them around the country, around Europe. Well, we used to follow them around Europe. We have every right to have an opinion on the people who are running the club, but abuse is different, and it's worth mentioning that. Super chat from iShip says, unpopular opinion, but a Jordan Henderson type player improves Arsenal massively. Your attack is on point. It's the leadership / no ego that is lacking. Yeah, so I suppose some truth in that. Sean with super chat, but no comment, but thank you anyway. Benali says, maybe Edu and Arteta trust the process means to finish bottom of the table and put pressure on Kroenkes to sell the club. If that's the case, I'm in. I mean, can you imagine? Imagine that was the plan. Super chat from Hart says, stop buying mediocre players to begin with. Yeah, fair enough. Treff says, Edu and Arteta have struck gold. They're using Arsenal Football Club to further their career by knowing KSE don't have expertise, no relationships to challenge their jobs. And then Chris says, guys, Edu and Arteta are both donuts and need to get out of our club ASAP. Big up Turkish. There's another super chat from Simon as well. Says, Edu knows we'll finish 6th to 10 this season. The aim is to challenge for top 4 next season. Hence the talk of building foundations, not specifying targets. They won't admit this. This will be a long process because we will literally riot. Shake my head. And then the 12th man says, Edu is just a reflection of the standards that KSE set. I thought some really good points in there. Let's just kind of stop. Let's just stop the stream. Let's move on. By just kind of rounding off really quickly the job Edu's done, and then I want to kind of look at actually let's start with the signings this summer, going through them quickly, which you think are good signings or at least will prove to be good signings. Aaron Ramsdale, not sure. Nuno Tavares, not sure. Ben White, not sure. Oh God. Albert Sambi Lokonga, not sure. Martin Odegaard, good signing. Takahiro Tomiyasu, not sure. Fair enough.
I think that's me being fair.
I think that is you being.
I think that's me being fair.
Me,
so Ramsdale.
I think White, Odegaard, and Lokonga. I'm very confident that they will prove good signings for Arsenal. Ramsdale, I'm hopeful. Tavares, I mean, it's the nicest way to Tavares. I'm not that arsed because as long as he's a decent backup, he's done his job.
Fair, yeah.
And then Tomiyasu. I've heard really good things about Tomiyasu coming out of Serie A. It is funny how the narrative changes. When Tottenham wanted to sign him, people were whipping out all these amazing stats about progression from midfield and, you know, how he plays as a very modern athletic fullback. The minute we get him, you're hearing people on the media saying, "Oh, he's a bit of a no one. He's being thrown around." I mean, come on. Like, anyway, so we'll see. I think this window genuinely has every chance of proving to be a great window for Arsenal, and every chance of also proving a complete and utter waste of 150 million. It could go either way.
100%.
So,
I said, if you asked me this at the end of the 2019 window, I would have said Pepe, good. Martinelli, good. Guendouzi, good. Torreira, good. Saliba, good. It was Tierney, great. And then we finished 8th twice.
Yeah.
So the people calling me negative for being not sure about the signings, can you give me a break? Can you understand why I might be
being
dubious?
that negative. I think you're being quite fair.
Of course I'm not being negative, but like I've seen, you know, better windows lead to the worst things.
I thought last year was a decent window. You know? I thought Gabriel, Partey, got a backup, and Ceballos, perfect. Willian, who knows?
I think last season window created more of a buzz than this one because that Thomas Partey signing was the marquee. And
we just won the FA Cup, and you felt, let's add a Partey to that midfield, and bam, we're going to explode and be all this, and maybe Ozil will come back, but that didn't happen. No, fair enough. Okay, let's just end then this Edu chat on the job Edu's doing in general since he's come in. Now, I'm going to say, maybe because I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, I think when Raul Sanyehi was here, I don't think he really called the shots, if I'm honest.
What, Edu?
Yeah. I think Sanyehi was the man in charge, and Edu was learning his trade a little bit when he came in.
I'd agree with that.
So I'm going to judge him from halfway through last summer when Sanyehi left. And in that time, Gabriel, who I can't remember who was credited more for that deal, but Ceballos came back in on loan. Partey came in.
Yeah.
Odegaard and Matt Ryan in the winter window. Willian was very much Edu's deal. And then the signings this summer. How do we feel Edu is doing in the job in general?
Signings wise, I think you can create an argument for and against.
Yeah.
And me being not sure about 90% of our signings this summer means I can't be sure about Edu based on his signings.
Yeah.
But based on what he's talked about and how he's come across, I don't like him in this position because he's come across quite arrogant, condescending, and I think he needs to understand we know he lacks the experience in this role. So being condescending and arrogant in a position where you lack experience can only lead to bad things for you. I think if you was a bit more open and honest and more self-critical and taking more ownership of some of the mistakes, we could get to, you know, connect with you a bit more, because everyone makes mistakes, especially someone that's not experienced enough to be in a position they're in any job. But if you act like you're better than other people and you know better when you haven't been doing better, that's when your character doesn't come across as someone that I can trust and listen to and like.
Okay. Interesting. I disagree with the arrogant thing. I personally don't think he's come across as arrogant. That's just kind of how
I think the Willian, when he said, if you don't like Willian as a footballer, you don't know football. That's a very arrogant line. Because no one was really saying, you know, we don't like Willian as a footballer. We're saying he's been a good footballer, but no, don't sign this man.
Now, do you know what? Okay, actually, yeah, that was supremely arrogant. I'll give you that. That was poor. Okay, if I'm judging the job he's done so far, I'm saying I think he's done a lot of good, actually, in terms of the signings.
Is that more you hope he's done a lot of good, or you know he's done a lot of good?
I think he's done a lot of good.
Yeah, hope, yeah.
But I also think, or actually more so I know, that a lot of bad has gone on in his time. I think we've been far too patient with Arteta personally. I think Edu plays a part in that. I think we've taken far too long to do certain deals in the window. I think the allocation of funds has been weird. I think the decision on how to deal with Saliba Maitland-Niles, Guendouzi, Ozil. I've not liked a lot of that. And the decision to give Granit Xhaka a new deal, it's one thing. I know it's one thing. But I think it's a borderline sackable offence to try and sell a player for 2 months that is supremely unpopular with the fan base. I'm sorry. The guy got sent off for a tackle he's made 10 times since he's come to Arsenal. And people, it's not 10, it's actually 6. Sorry. You know, he's done the same old thing. And I'm bored of criticising him because he doesn't pick himself. And then to give him a new contract on the back of everything that's gone on and allow him to wear the armband again, for me, is such poor management of the situation and resources at the club. It's just my opinion. I'm not trying to be personal with him. It's just honestly how I feel about his time at Arsenal as a footballer. And I think you put all these things together, and ultimately I can say that I don't think Edu's doing a good job. I still think he's done a lot of good, but I think ultimately he's done a lot more bad.
Yeah.
That's probably the most negative I've ever, or the most I've ever been on a stream. But it's just honestly, I was at the Etihad and I saw that tackle go in, and I looked at Arteta, and I thought about Edu and the people up there, and I just thought,
yeah,
you guys paid for this, by the way. You didn't just ask for it; you paid for it.
You allowed it to happen.
You've given the fans money.
Whilst we've got the Cronkies in charge, the people that try feed us the next project or the next process or are in charge of it, they will never fully be able to connect with fans unless they show more honesty and truth, and that will also entail pressuring above. That's why I call for someone like Conte so much, because I see him as a manager that puts pressure above as much as he puts it down to his players, and we need that. Yeah. And if it's not Antonio Conte next, then I don't care who it is. I know now that everyone should see that it's the Cronkies. But again, it will be a new process, a new project. But just know there's a limit to it all. Just know even if the next manager kicks on, Ten Hag comes in with Mark Overmars, we finish 5th, 22-23, and we finish 4th, 23-24 season, and we're back in Champions League and we celebrate that. Just know we was in Champions League for a good 15 years with these owners, and they never once tried to win the league from that position.
That's a good point.
That's where we got fed up with them. So let's not lose ourselves, and when we get back, if we get back to where we was in the top 4, think that they have changed or the job is done. Far from it. Yeah. Far from it.
No, fair point. Let's set our own season targets, because Edu wouldn't. And just round off on that discussion. Ultimately, you thought a poor interview.
Yeah, I just thought it's stunk of PR, number one. And number 2, I just feel...
Why 2 interviews in a day? Isn't that just so weird? And by the way, it's not an exclusive interview if that person has said the exact same thing that exact same day on another media platform. Just saying.
Yeah, it's mad. It's mad. But you know how Arsenal spin it all the time. Yeah, I just think it was... Do I say unnecessary? Because at the same time, I call for transparency. But what people need to understand is, a lot of people say to me, you want them to talk and you ask them to talk, but when they come out and talk, you say it's bullshit. Yeah, because I'm not asking them just to talk. I'm asking them to be transparent. That interview, both interviews were far from transparent. I'm asking you to be honest. There's some honesty there, but not enough honesty for me to feel like you've taken ownership of your mistakes. All these are what I want to hear you talk about, not another PR spin. So talking, okay, I want that, but if it's PR, that's not what I want. I'd rather you shut up and keep it moving. Yeah. But if it's actually to connect with the fans and be honest with us for once, I'm all ears. I'm all for it.
Yeah. I think to sum up my feelings on it, wasn't a great interview. I don't think it was really half as bad as people have made out. But while I felt he made some good points, some points I agreed with, I think he completely missed the feeling of the fan base. And kind of it was the wrong tone for me. A lot of this, like, trying to explain something to us as if we're too stupid to kind of realise it. He made some good points that I agreed with, but ultimately I felt he missed the kind of feeling of the fan base, personally. But anyway, he's done it. He's spoken out. We spent 45 minutes of this News Daily Show talking about it. But you know what? We had to break it down. Sorry if you felt like we've waffled on, but I mean,
Well,
this is our first opportunity
it's
to
the
really
most
talk about
important subject around now. It's
I think
international
so.
break, and our director of football has come out extensively to talk about what he believes he is doing.
Yeah, agreed. Let's quickly set a target for Arsenal this season. It's not going to be necessarily what you want for Arsenal,
Yeah.
but let's give a realistic target of what would be a acceptable, not good, acceptable season for Arsenal.
Top 6. And that will never be acceptable for Arsenal, but I'll accept it where we are right now. 3 games in, transfer window done with the squad we have. I think top 6 would be, if we achieved it, then maybe Edu's words of being in the middle of a project make a bit more sense, because then the next step might be top 4 and then so on. But I think even that target, top 6, is too far a stretch for this team this season.
So hard. I feel like all my expectations are based on kind of what happens after. Okay, if we finish 5th or 6th, but we've genuinely competed for top 4. Last season we finished 6 points off top 4, weirdly, but we were never in it. Let's say we finish within 3 to 6 points of top 4.
Yeah.
And we've been in the race most of the year. But you know what? We've lost out to City, United, Chelsea, Liverpool. I can accept that we are behind 4 clubs that have been run very well the last 3 years in terms of their recruitment and their development as teams. Cool.
Ambition, so on.
Ambition. I can stomach that. If that's then followed up with a summer in which we make 2 signings, striker and a centre mid,
and we still spend 150 mil.
Right? I'm thinking that's a nice path I can get on board with.
That's progression in what you're doing.
Chuck in a bloody Carabao Cup and trophy or something. I mean, yeah, cool. I always think silverware is
if you're in it, you've got to try win it. And
Right.
we're not winning the league, so FA Cup and League Cup, bring it on this season. That's how I see it.
So I think that would be acceptable. And as I said, if we some sort of cup run, we finish in the top 6, but challenge for top 4 really, we look a more competitive side. We play good football. We start scoring goals again. The signings come good, and then we follow that up with a summer of 2-3 players that are really going to make a difference. I'm happy with that being the next 12 months for Arsenal Football Club. Not happy? I'm
content, you mean?
Yeah. I'm accepting of that being the path for Arsenal Football Club. People might say you're aiming way too low. I'm just trying to be realistic. I mean, yeah, I'm just trying to be realistic.
I think, look, you know what? I think, like I said, I can't judge the transfer window yet. I do think Arteta will face the sack at some point this season. And I think the next managerial appointment will determine how content I am with this window and the next 12 months or so. I think if you give Antonio Conte this squad and then 150, 200 million next summer, I think he can do something. And I don't mean something as in challenge for a league. I mean, he can kick things on a bit better than any other manager at the moment that's available.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Super chat from Shreth again says, Chelsea in the last 2 years spent 250 million, created Champions League winning squad, bought top German talents and a coach from the Bundesliga, sold 94 million, bought £97 million player. AFC have lost 200 million. Yeah, this thing about Chelsea and Man United still being able to sell Dan James for 25 million, and Chelsea have been selling really well this summer. The one thing I'll say is those clubs aren't desperate for cash in the way we know Arsenal are. And when you're not desperate for cash, your prices are immediately higher. So someone comes knocking on the door for your player and you say 35 million, they're going to think you're crazy, but we'll pay 25 because they know Chelsea don't need the money. So here's the price. We'll negotiate a bit, but if this is what you want, this is what it's going to take. Arsenal don't have that. Arsenal know that Eddie Nketiah, who Liverpool might have sold for 20 million if he was part of their academy, Chelsea might have sold for 15 to 25 million. Everyone knows Arsenal will kind of take what they can get.
Yeah,
so
when you lose so many first teamers over the years for free and you can't get rid of them, it's a long road for the backups to those players. If the backups can't feature more with players that are not worth much playing, then that determines the transfer market.
Yeah.
And we're poor all round.
Yeah, you got super chat addressed to you there, so I thought maybe.
Yeah, Saeem, big up Saeem. He says Turkish, big up. Wallahi, the man has just said the most important thing. When we were regularly fourth, we demanded more. falling to 8th, then rising back to 4th isn't progress. 100%. Taking 2 steps back, then 2 steps forward isn't progress. 100%.
Yeah, summed up well.
Yeah.
Summed up very, very well. Look, let's talk about Antonio Conte. You mentioned him. We're going to end on Conte and then kind of what we're expecting for this week, because we do have a game and football will be back, Premier League football. Do you believe Antonio Conte is waiting for this job?
No.
Oh.
But I believe he'll take it if we give him what he wants.
I see what you're saying.
I don't think he's waiting for it because I don't feel like we've even tried to entertain it yet. I don't think we will, but I demand it if they're thinking about moving on from Arteta. I demand Conte as an Arsenal fan. That's my opinion. I demand him, and if it's not him, I don't accept anything less. Because I feel like we've accepted less before and they've got away with it. It's time to give us what we want. Give us Conte. And I think the majority would, if asked, 90% of the Arsenal fan base would probably take Antonio Conte. And that comes from English fans, fans abroad, fans online, middle-aged, young or old. I think Conte would be the number one option.
Yeah, you said that quite well. You don't think he's waiting, but you think he'd take it. I get that. I don't think he's sitting there going, come on, Norwich.
Yeah.
I don't think he's sitting there sort of biding his time because this is his dream job. But I think you're right. If it came up, a lot of people are saying, why would Conte take it?
But you looked at his record before.
Yeah, it really winds me up when people say, why would Conte take this job? Just have a little look at Conte's kind of history as a manager, recent history. He hasn't been taking clubs at their peak and building on it. Yeah. He's actually been taking clubs and teams, because Italy are included in that, going through a bit of a downturn in form. He took over Chelsea, who, yes, had a lot of money and had a very expensively assembled squad that had won the league the year before. But they finished, 10th? They didn't have European football. And he came in and he took them straight back to the title. He took over Inter Milan, who, in the 4 or 5 years before he was their manager, finished between 4th and 8th.
Yeah.
Every year, 4th and 8th. Never broke past 4th. So, yes, some years they were competitive again. But Italian football wasn't competitive with Juventus. He came in, first season finished 2nd, Europa League final as well, then wins the title. So, he's got a history. Look at the Italian national team. They really struggled at the World Cup. Yeah. He came in, made an impact at the Euros immediately in 2016. He's got a history of taking clubs that aren't where they should be, but the resources are there, the players, and I believe Arsenal have good players. I believe he'd relish the prospect of working with Lacazette or Aubameyang. Can I put them in a 2 like I did Lautaro and Lukaku? Not as good are options, but they're still good. Yeah. Can I take a Smith Rowe, a Saka, a Pepe? Can I turn Pepe into that world beater? I think he's got a history of taking clubs that have something there and they just need to be elevated massively, and he's got a history of doing that. So this idea, why would he take the job, I think is lazy. Have you looked at his recent history at least? And I think I'm going to look it up actually while you give your thoughts on this. I think when he took over Juve, they weren't in a great. I don't think he took them over as winners either.
I can't remember.
I'm going to have a look at that while you kind of give me your thoughts on all that.
And my thoughts are, listen, a lot of the chat are saying, Conte wouldn't come, or, we can't afford Conte, or we can't give Conte what he wants. And that's my thing. I'm not saying we can with this owner. What I am saying is Arsenal have the money and resources to be able to give Conte the money he wants as wages and a considerable transfer window, as we've just saw with 150 million spent this summer, with very few player sales. 25 million Willock, 1 million Guendouzi, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So that was quite a big outlay. Now, if you bring a manager like Conte and give him anywhere near 200 mil, you start to sway a manager like that. He left Inter because at Inter this summer, they had to think differently about the way they move forward. But he also signed for Inter. So when he had signed for Inter, they must have given him what he wanted. Things changed over those years. And I think him leaving Inter shows that he's, very much cares about his reputation, his pride and whatnot. And I look at it similarly to Klopp and Liverpool. I think it's not like Liverpool's ownership has changed their ways. I feel like they hit the jackpot with Klopp. He won them a league and Champions League. And if Klopp walked away this summer and said, you lot ain't backing me, I think if we looked at the last couple of transfer windows, we could probably say, you know what, he's probably right.
I think he's absolutely. I think he would.
But Klopp decided to stick around. I think his connection with the Liverpool fans is far greater than Conte with Inters and so on. But I think Conte definitely comes in, definitely demands downwards, definitely demands upwards, and that's what we need.
So I've got the record here. So he joined Juventus in 2011. He then won the Scudetto title in his first season. They then won it for the next, 7, 8, well, how many seasons is that? I can't be bothered to count. 8, I think. The last time Juventus won the title before he was there was 2003. Now it says here 2004, not 2004-05, not awarded. I wonder if that's because of the whole, Juventus got demoted, or relegated because of.
What year was that?
2004-05.
Yeah, it must have been around.
Yeah.
Then,
All right. So clearly, that they probably had that taken off them. But for a long, long time, Inter Milan were dominating. For AC Milan won it in 2011, and then Conte comes in and they win it. Please stop telling me that Antonio Conte wants everything handed on a plate and that he's then going to just go win it. It's not how he does things.
Yeah.
I think there's this really, really skewed perception of what kind of... I think people look at him like a Guardiola. Why would Guardiola... Because Guardiola has gone to clubs that, they might not be the very top. They're not far off. He spends a load of money. Yeah. He implements his, world-class tactics and footballing philosophy on them, and they go and do amazing things. That's not Antonio Conte.
It isn't, and look at the jobs he's taken. That proves it.
I think so. Let's have a little look. I had the list here.
Chelsea in 10th. That's a massive risk.
Yeah.
Inter Milan 4th to 8th.
Only 10 years ago, he was at Siena, Atalanta, Bari. I don't think he's got this snobbish kind of view of himself as a manager.
No, do I? And listen, there's not many bigger jobs going on in world football than an Arsenal job if it becomes available. What I'm worried about is if the Man United job becomes available first, because Man United are a team and club that will act and bring in an Antonio Conte if they have a chance.
Yeah. Well, there's a chat here from Will who says, James, please stop telling us Conte would be okay coming to Arsenal with these kind of owners. That's the only thing I do think is a good point. He might be looking at the Cronkies and going, I cannot work for a club. At least the others might have had ambition, at least. The Italian team, Juventus, Inter, Chelsea, there must have been an ambition to get them back. And he might have seen that and therefore thought, you know what, it makes sense for me. He might look at Arsenal and go, the ambition isn't even there. Forget the money. I don't even believe the owners want this. But I think when you've given Arteta 150 million, or sanctioned 150 million, I think there's a degree of, not ambition, but license to do what you've got to do. And almost, here you go. We don't really care, but, we're going to give you what you need to do what you supposedly want to do. I think Antonio Conte would get enough of that at Arsenal, potentially. It's about whether he also gets what his salary would demand and all these other things. But
this is my point. We need this owner to do something he's never done for us to believe he's going to change. And that's why I demand the Conte. It's not because I think he will accept the current ownership the way it is. He wouldn't. And that's why if he was to sign, I'd question whether this ownership's going to change. Not whether Antonio Conte's changed and he's willing to leave his name on the line for Arsenal Football Club. I'd question, hold on, he must have got something, he wanted. He must be getting backed. And he's a manager that comes with substance. He's come with credentials. Then I would turn and say, maybe we got to give Kroenke these few months because Antonio Conte is a completely different swing in a whole new direction. Yeah. Whereas Project Youth is not. It's a swing from the same direction we've seen before. So I just can't really get behind it how they want me to get behind it.
Fair enough. Let's take the super chat from Mahesh. Says, the big spending this season was just to keep the fans quiet after the Super League controversy. If Arteta gets fired, the club is forced to appoint a big manager. I think Klopp might get fired and join us. Oh my God. I don't see that happening. I don't see Klopp being fired. I mean, can you imagine the uproar at Liverpool?
Yeah, that'd be it.
We've got a minute to go. Let's just quickly round up. New week.
Yep. Same old Arsenal.
Well, I was going to ask if we were going to see a new Arsenal.
Nah, mate. You haven't come back to nothing new.
No?
No.
I didn't take a week off and find that things were... No? Just brushed under the carpet, was it? No? Nothing was actually tidied up? No?
You had 2 interviews from Edu.
Oh, that was good. Did we mention that?
Shress says we missed a super chat. Where is that super chat? Shress, I fear we stand at a high chance of losing to teams by big margins if Partey, Gabriel Martinelli... If Partey, Gabby remains injured and Oba doesn't score chances for worst ever season.
Well, let's hope not. Go on, though. The new season, though. Sorry, new team this week. What are we expecting? From the players that did play against Man City, I'm expecting Tomiyasu. Excited to see him. Welcome to the club, by the way. I've not had the chance to say that. Ben White and Gabriel together. I'm excited to see Partey, probably with Lokonga. Odegaard starting not as a central midfielder against the best team in the country. I don't know. Listen,
I'm waiting to see some of the new players we've brought in. Yeah.
No, all I'll say is no excuses for Arteta for the manner of the performance we've seen up till now, and I believed he deserved. I don't believe he deserved more time after Villarreal. I certainly don't believe he deserved more time after this start. However, I think we're going to see, for the first time, a more complete team than we've seen under this manager since he's arrived this weekend.
That's what you think, yeah?
I want to use the word complete. I'm not saying
Is
good.
that because it's Norwich, or is that because you believe in what you...
No. Because I believe actually for the first time we'll genuinely have them all available. And by the way, I don't think that makes Arteta a better manager or change my stance on him or makes me think that Arsenal will suddenly have a good season. I'm just saying I think it'll be an interesting weekend.
Well, let's see, because Edu's pretty much picked the centre-back pairing in Ben White and Gabriel, so let's
hope
look, it does
he's got his
work
own
out.
goalkeeper in Ramsdale to choose.
Yep.
3 of the back 4 are his, and we know he loves Kieran Tierney.
Yep. 2
2 central midfielders, if he picks Lokonga over Elneny, they're his 2. Odegaard is his signing, so that's 3. So the whole midfield 3 is his.
Emil Smith-Rowe, new contracts underneath.
And then Aubameyang new deal. That is his team. And I'll give Arteta this one thing. I don't think we've ever gone into a game till now and actually said, this is an Arteta team.
Feels like we're giving him an excuse here.
No, I'm not. I'm just because the job of a manager is to get what you can out of what you've got as well. Because I believe there's talent at Arsenal, but I'm just saying, there's really no reason now.
Yeah, I get you. There's no hiding behind fine margins and red cards and penalty decisions anymore. Now, that's it.
Or I'm playing this guy because there's no one better. And, I don't have the right back I really want. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Listen, at least it's fresh. Doesn't mean it'll be good. At least it'll be fresh and different. Velma says James loves giving Arteta excuse. I said it's not an excuse. I tore him apart for the City game, where I thought he had a lot of his own players for City and didn't use them, and I went in on him for that. But I'm just saying, if we see the 11 I expect to see, at least it's different. Maybe.
Yeah, well, I'm expecting to see it,
I'm just trying to cover all angles here. I'm back, guys. Have you missed my relentless naivety and positivity and all that? Love Ramey says James equals Arteta apologist. But then Super Duper Guy says leave James alone. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Anyway, I'm back. An hour of breaking down this interview. What a welcome back, eh?
Yeah, it's been fun. Perfect start. It's been to the perfect week.
Yeah.
Onwards and upwards. 3-0 against Norwich. Let's go.
I'm trying, guys. Anyway, as always, like and subscribe. We'll be back for news daily. Go check out the Bias Premier League show if you haven't yet. And all the content coming out this week, we'll be doing a roundup as well of the international games. See how the Arsenal players have done. I believe that'll come out Wednesday or Thursday. So yes, lots coming out as always this week, and we'll be building up to the big game on Saturday. Let's hope we finally get 3 points. Look forward to seeing Tomiyasu.
Yeah. Ben White Gabriel partnership.
Yeah, things to look forward to.
Lokonga, Partey, hopefully.
Thanks as always.
Come on.
See you next time.
Love people.